I'm Echo, and you're listening to Depthcast. In the rich tapestry of global folklore, few spirits are as hauntingly iconic as Indonesia's Pocong, restless soul wrapped tightly in its own funeral shroud, condemned to hop through the night in search of release. Tonight, we journey deep into the heart of the Indonesian archipelago, where ancient beliefs and ghost stories still echo through the villages. This is Pocong, an Indonesian ghost, wrapped in a burial shroud. Let's peel back the veil on one of Southeast Asia's most bone-chilling legends. Indonesia stands as a land where the veil between worlds feels remarkably thin, a nation spread across thousands of islands, where ancient beliefs blend with modern life, creating a unique spiritual ecosystem, where the supernatural is often accepted as simply another layer of reality. Among the pantheon of supernatural beings that inhabit Indonesian folklore, the Pocong emerges as perhaps the most visually striking and immediately recognizable. Picture this: you're driving along a rural road late at night. Suddenly, you must slam on your brakes as a white shrouded figure and mystically, a corpse wrapped tightly in funeral cloth comes hopping across your path. This is the Pocong soul trapped within its burial shroud, unable to rest or move to the afterlife. Its appearance alone sends shivers down the spiny pale or greenish face, often decomposing, with either hollow sockets where eyes should be, or sometimes glowing eyes that pierce through the darkness. Its most distinctive feature, however, is its movement bound at the feet. It cannot walk, but instead hops or floats in an unnatural, jerking motion that immediately signals its otherworldly nature. To understand the Pocong, we must first understand the Islamic burial traditions from which this legend emerges. In Indonesia, where Islam is the predominant religion, specific funeral practices are observed with utmost reverence. When a Muslim dies in Indonesia, the body undergoes ritual washing before being wrapped in a simple white cloth called a kafan, the burial shroud. This shroud is tied at 3 critical points: over the head, around the neck, and under the feet. This binding ensures the body's dignity during transport to the grave and represents the soul's containment before its journey to the afterlife. According to traditional beliefs, the soul of the deceased remains on earth for 40 days after death. This is a transitional period, a time of liminality between life and what comes after. Once these 40 days have passed, a crucial ritual must occur: the symbolic untying of the shroud's knots. This ritual act represents the final release of the soul, allowing it to depart the earthly realm and continue its spiritual journey. Here lies the terrifying origin of the Pocong. When this final ritual is neglected, when those knots remain tied beyond the 40-day period, the soul becomes trapped, unable to escape its shroud, unable to complete its journey. The deceased body rises from the grave, still bound within its kafan, transformed into a Pocong. The very bindings meant to preserve dignity in death become the chains of a horrifying afterlife existence. Sightings of the Pocong are reported throughout Indonesia, predominantly in rural areas and particularly near graveyards or abandoned buildings. However, the Pocong shows a peculiar preference in some regions for appearing beneath banana trees, believed to have connections to the supernatural world. The behavior of a Pocong varies widely across different regional accounts. In some tales, it appears as a pitiable figure, a lost soul, simply seeking release from its bindings. In others, it manifests as a malevolent entity, intent on frightening or even harming the living. Let me share the story of Pakamat, a cemetery caretaker from a small village in central Java. One night, while locking the cemetery gates, Pakamat noticed something disturbing: oil freshly disturbed on a grave buried weeks earlier. As moonlight filtered through the trees, he glimpsed a white figure hopping between gravestones, its shroud luminous against the darkness. Most would have run, but Pakamat recognized the grave as belonging to a stranger who had died passing through their village, with no family present. The village had conducted a simple burial, but perhaps overlooked the 40-day ritual to untie the shroud's knots, drawing upon generations of cultural knowledge. Pak Ahmed approached the Pocong despite his terror. The entity didn't attack, but seemed to struggle against its bindings. With trembling hands, he reached out and carefully untied the knots binding the shroud, first at the head, then the feet. As the final knot loosened, witnesses say a look of profound peace replaced the tortured expression on the Pocong's face. The shroud collapsed empty to the ground as a warm breeze carrying the scent of jasmine flowers swept through the cemetery. Not all Pocong encounters end so peacefully. The plastic Pocong of Jakarta represents a modern urban variant of the legend. This manifestation allegedly stems from the tragic story of a pregnant woman murdered by her boyfriend. During autopsy, blood continued flowing from her remains, causing hospital staff to wrap her in plastic before burial. This Pocong is said to appear near hospitals, seeking revenge or release from its plastic bindings. Another modern variant is the Andong Pocong, reported in Sidoarjo around 2007. 2008, a Pocong that appeared riding in a traditional horse-drawn carriage, creating a particularly uncanny and terrifying spectacle for witnesses. Unlike many supernatural entities that are permanently fixed in their haunting state, the Pocong presents a unique situation. Its condition can be resolved. The traditional method for freeing a Pocong is beautifully simple conceptually. Though terrifying in practice, one must approach the entity and untie the knots binding its shroud. This act of courage serves two purposes. First, it completes the burial ritual that was neglected, correcting the spiritual oversight. Second, it demonstrates compassion toward the trapped soul, recognizing it not as a monster, but as a being worthy of help and release. If the Pocong remains unassisted, legends suggest it grows increasingly anguished and potentially dangerous. Some believe a Pocong left bound for too long might transform into a more malevolent entity entirely, its frustration hardening into vengeful intent. There are several defensive strategies against a Pocong encounter, apart from helping release it. Some believe lying on the ground and pretending to be dead will cause the Pocong to lose interest. Others suggest running down winding paths, as the Pocong's bound feet make it difficult to navigate turns quickly. However, these methods merely allow escape rather than resolving the Pocong's fundamental plight. The Pocong transcends simple ghost stories to embody profound cultural and religious concepts. As a liminal by neither fully dead nor properly at rest, it represents the dangers of incomplete transitions and the importance of ritual closure. In Indonesian society, particularly within Islamic communities, proper funeral rites aren't merely traditions but sacred obligations. The Pocong serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences when these obligations are neglected. Parents might invoke the Pocong not just to frighten children, but to instill an understanding of communal responsibility toward the deceased. The Pocong also functions as a manifestation of collective guilt when one appears. It represents not just an individual's interrupted journey, but a community's failure to properly care for one of its members. The bound nature of the Pocong trapped in its shroud, limited in movement, serves as a potent metaphor for unresolved matters in life that prevents spiritual and emotional closure. Interestingly, the Sumpah Pocong oath represents another cultural application of this legend. This solemn ritual involves a person wrapping themselves in a burial shroud and taking an oath at a mosque or sacred place. It's considered one of the most serious oath ceremonies in Javanese tradition, with the belief that lying while the Pocong shroud invites terrible supernatural consequences. Far from fading with modernization, the Pocong has successfully adapted to contemporary contexts. Indonesian horror cinema embraces the Pocong, a uniquely national contribution to global horror iconography, with films like Pocong 2006 and numerous sequels bringing this traditional ghost to modern audiences. Beyond cinema, the Pocong appears in television, literature, and digital media. Social media platforms feature countless Pocong-related content, from alleged encounter videos to creative reinterpretations of the legend. Perhaps most remarkably, during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, volunteers in some Indonesian villages deploy pocong patrols, people dressed as pocong, who would appear randomly to encourage compliance with lockdown measures. As Enjar Pakanicios, head of one youth volunteer group, explained, we wanted to be different and create a deterrent effect because pocong is spooky and scary. Initially, this tactic backfired as curious villagers came out specifically to spot the pocongs. However, when volunteers began appearing randomly and unexpectedly, the strategy proved effective at keeping people indoors. This creative application demonstrates how traditional folklore continues to influence modern Indonesian society, even in public health contexts. The legend of the pocong embodies several enduring themes that resonate beyond Indonesian shores. It emphasizes the importance of respecting traditions, particularly those surrounding death. It suggests that rituals are not empty gestures but meaningful acts with spiritual consequences. There's also a powerful message about the consequences of negligence. The pocong doesn't arise through malicious intent, but through oversight or carelessness. This serves as a reminder that harm can result not just from deliberate wrongdoing, but from simple failure to fulfill our obligations to others. The pocong confronts our universal fear of death and uncertainty about what follows. By giving form to the concept of a soul trapped between worlds, the legend addresses anxieties about the afterlife that transcend cultural boundaries. Will we move peacefully to whatever awaits us, or might we too become trapped in some liminal state? Perhaps most profoundly, the pocong represents the importance of proper closure, both literally for the deceased and metaphorically for the living. Just as the pocong seeks release from its bindings, we too must seek resolution for unfinished business in our lives. As we conclude our journey through this chilling Indonesian legend, consider what knots might need untying in your own life, what unresolved matters might keep you bound to the past, and most importantly, how might you help release others who are trapped in situations not of their making? The pocong reminds us that sometimes the most frightening entities aren't villains to be vanquished, but souls in need of compassion and release. In this recognition lies perhaps the most powerful lesson of this ancient Indonesian ghost story, that even in death, we remain connected by obligations of care and ritual that, when honored, allow all souls to find their proper rest. As the pocong fades back into the shadows of the archipelago, we turn our gaze to the haunted halls of Alabama, where another restless spirit lingers. In our next episode, we explore the tragic tale of the Red Lady of Huntingdon Collegia, ghost cloaked in crimson, forever wandering the halls of Pratt Hall. Some say she was driven to despair by loneliness, and ridicule. Others claim her presence chills the air and stains the walls with sorrow. Who was she before she became a legend? And why does she still roam, night after night? Until next time, this is your host, Echo, reminding you that behind every ghost story lies deeper truths about what it means to be human. For more eerie tales and exclusive content, visit our website at thedepthcast.com, your gateway to the chilling world of urban legends and modern folklore. Don't forget to check out the bonus podcast for each episode, only available online.